Okay, let me take us now to the sort of final set of conversations I wanted to have, and this you've brought it very nicely back to the patient. And here we have Nozomi, the astronaut herself, saying, "This isn't good enough. I need to know what I can do to start the process." And she's told, "Well, it's complex. Hang in there." And she said, "No, I'm the one out here reminding us, as you've just done that, and also your intervention. My project is staying alive. No matter what the system's doing, bring it back to the issue of the patient." So how do we make better patient care a reality so that the systems, with all their complexity and people's interests, actually move towards the point where they serve the patients? Bright ideas from the panelists, and also I'll invite you from the floor to come forward.
I think organize the care around the patient, but there will always be, I mean, the patient will not be able to come in the next day, maybe they have to wait for a week. But if you sort of organize your care around the patient, it cannot never be perfect. But if your starting point is that you organize around the patient, it's already a big step, and that will be a major transformation in healthcare, because now the healthcare is organized around the physician and around the hospital or the outpatient service, and that's going to be a major turnover. It's probably not going to be more expensive, but budget allocations are going to be completely different. But I hear, I mean, the tension will always be there. I mean, I've worked both in Europe and North America. The equity of care in Europe is much higher than in North America, believe me. In North America, it's the strongest survival of the fittest, the people that have advocates for themselves and have a very good health plan that get better care than others. So in Europe, if we can keep that equity of care, we should spread it all over Europe, and I agree completely that it's not spread all over Europe. But if we have to keep that, we'll have to make choices. So yes, center around the patient, that should be the starting point, and transform everything that is centered or organized from the patient's starting point. But there will always be trade-offs, because otherwise our resources will double and triple, and that is probably something we cannot afford.
Okay. Renaud, let me pass to you, because hospitals are really in the firing line at the moment in our conversations.
Thanks for the invitation.
And perhaps wrongly, because if you look at healthcare of the future, 20, 30 years from now, maybe there won't be such a thing as a big hospital, because a lot of the care, more sophisticated care, will be able to be delivered remotely at home. But what can we do now with the hospitals that we've got today to make them more efficient, more streamlined, more responsive to patients' needs and the kinds of paths they need to take through the healthcare system?
If you don't mind, I just want to start by saying it's never enough, and it won't never be enough, never. Because one life lost is one too much. The question for me in terms of healthcare is, it's not within the hospital, it's not within the oncology department and the coordination, which is very good for the patient. It's really, how are we building together a vision of the future? How are we going to do this? Yes, we need to involve more and more the patient. The patient want to be involved in their care. Yes, we'll go for the chronicity of care. Yes, we need to have, and we are doing already this, we need to have the patient representative around the table when we are designing the hospital of the future. But how, as a payer, as authorities, as hospital manager, as doctors or doctors representative, are we sitting around the table together and saying, okay, this is what makes sense? And this is how we can continue the quest of being better, not doing enough, being better and better and better in the future. This is my point.
Okay. I know Bettina wanted to come in, and I'll bring Lee in, but let me also see that I had a couple more hands up from the floor, so the room is warming up a little bit. Okay, we had someone at the back. We'll start with you, then we'll come here and there. Okay. You have a microphone in your chair?
Good evening. My name is Johan Verhagen. I'm with Medicines for Europe, so we represent the generic, biosimilar and value-added medicine sector. I wanted to pick up on a comment by Bettina when it comes to access, and I'm quoting from the information paper in front of me. Ensuring access to innovative therapies for cancer patients and incentives for sustainable innovation. Of course, everybody in his right mind will agree to this, but can I remind you that even with non-innovative medicines, we don't even manage sometimes to create the proper access for certain patients. So you can see this in geographically throughout Europe in the different countries, but even indeed also in different regions. So that was an observation I wanted to share.
Okay.
And then I have a little bit a question to the entire panel, but perhaps I would like politicians and hospital leaders to perhaps reflect as first ones. You mentioned leadership, and perhaps that we ought to change the leadership. It has already been touched a little bit in the previous comments. Would it not be better to change the drivers of the leadership, the incentives, if you will, of the leadership that should be changed? Because brutally speaking, or bluntly speaking, perhaps even better, sometimes in Europe, I think the tendency is that even though the leadership, it has, as in politicians, changed, but really, policy as such, does it really change?
Okay, so questions there about leadership and reminding us that the inequality of access isn't just the more expensive innovative, it's also even at the generic level. Thank you for those inputs. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. My name is Thomas Alvin from EFPIA. I'm also from Sweden, by the way. I'm sure it's just a coincidence.
It's a Swedish conspiracy.
Yeah, there always is one. So I want to come back to the issue of evidence-based care, and we talked about the waste in healthcare and 20 or 30%, and I mean a very small part of this is downright fraud. Most of it is people are doing the wrong things, not because they want to do it, but because they just don't know what the right thing is. And healthcare expenditure is a bit of a black box. You pour a lot of money into a system and hope that things will work. And I think here's where we need, because we have fairly good data on how individual medicines work on patients in clinical trials, which are not necessarily a standard patient that you will meet out in the reality. But we don't know enough about how all the different kinds of mix of healthcare interventions work for patients, or what actually works best. And here we need better data that's actually standardized and comparable, so we can start comparing hospitals, treatments, etc. across Europe. And here also, because we talked a lot about the national level, but here also the EU has a role in pushing for this standardization and exchange of data, and that but also that the national parliaments and national systems agree to give that mandate to the Commission or whoever at the EU level to just get that done.
So, and I'm sure he's taking great note. We have Andre Rees, who will be coming to speak from the European level just after this. So I'm sure he's taking note on these issues of political leadership to help change, and making sure we have data and comparable data to make our health systems more transparent. Yes.
Hello. Hello, my name is Gregor Cooper, and I'm not Swedish. But I do have a Finnish wife. Why am I
Close enough.
Why am I saying that? Because I want to give two examples, which one, the holistic picture, and the other one, yes, sometimes it is enough. It is not never enough. The positive example is the schools who are being told that the backpack of the students should not be more than 5 kilos so as to protect their back, not their bags, is a great initiative. It's very simple. It's about health. Why do only the Scandinavians come up with this? That's one question and a food for thought about health promoting. The why sometimes it is enough is my mother-in-law, which we unfortunately lost because it was never enough. After a very intense cancer treatment and coming back a few months later, and the whole team agreeing, yes, we need to treat more and we need to treat more. Yeah, operation successful, patient dead. Everybody around the table agreed, yeah, we need to do more. We, including the patient, thought, no, we don't. Just let us be for whatever months or years are left. So, yeah, never enough, no.
Okay. Let me pass this to the panel to pick up, because there were a couple of issues there about getting the balance between appropriate interventions and then at a certain point allowing the patients to say no when they've reached the limit of what they want. So again, it's back to the patient issue. So leadership, data, quality, access. Bettina, I cut you off just before. Yes, what would you like to add on?
First, I would like to comment to the Mr. From the generics industry. You, of course, quoted just part of it, because the first paragraph says that I'm in melanoma. And unfortunately, there are no generics in melanoma that save lives. So let's have that discussion in 10 years when the patents run out, and then we are back to there. Because that's, of course, the issue. If you're unfortunate enough to live in a disease that is only treatable by innovative drugs, you have no cheaper fallback. That's that answer. Two, we're wasting so much money and resources are limited, and this is something that Gert actually mentioned earlier. I think there's a lot of space in collaboration and smarter working together that we're currently not using. Because I don't believe it's sufficient to organize and optimize care within one center. Because if you have a disease that is rare, or, well, melanoma, I'm sorry that I'm coming back, that's the disease I know best. If you have metastatic melanoma, it's not classified as rare because there are many early stages. But late stage melanoma is a rare cancer. So you have kind of the disadvantages of being rare without the protection of being rare. So you cannot expect to have a specialist in every tiny little hospital. That's not effective, not cost effective. That is just training-wise not possible. So I would like to see a collaboration between centers. And we're already, sometimes it is even not in the same country. Belgium is a small country. We know that our specialists collaborate, for example, with the Netherlands or other countries. So I think if we put incentives on that collaboration, and that can be as cheap as an email, we have a lot of space in there. And we use that in our advocacy work for everyone, and that costs time, but not, well, time is money, but I don't think it's just about big resources.
Okay, thank you. Lee, what would you like to add here?
Yeah, it's coming back to the collaboration again, and let's say the partnership piece. And we've been talking about this at a company level as well as an FPL level as well. Part of the challenge is that is walking in each other's shoes. So it's almost, trying to get, because I think the challenges we face is that we often have what we would call conflicting, almost performance indicators or incentives within each of our relevant areas of expertise. And I think part of the, maybe at least initial step, is that we have that ability to walk in each other's steps. And I think really understand, we've been looking at it now from working with some of our collaborators as well for, how does it look to price a medicine? It's not an easy job. The same for a politician. What keeps the politician up at night? Same with the hospital. If we all sat round and could actually understand the perspective, because I think we all come with our own maybe conscious or unconscious bias, and I think the ability to look as a team, almost as a partnership, as long as we have that, coming back to the patient again, the patient at the center. I was reminded a couple of weeks ago, and I think it comes back to what Geert said on patient navigator. I felt like a patient navigator a couple of weeks ago because an ex-colleague of mine contacted me and said her friend's father had just been diagnosed and said there were no more options. It was an AML, so acute myeloid leukemia. He had a particular mutation, which is IDH2, and she'd heard that Celgene was developing a drug. And so she fortunately came to me as the patient navigator, and I could then get one of our team in Korea to find the trial site where the patient could be treated. So now, but the challenge we have in our system is that we don't often have that ability to networking and really get access. So coming back to mission control on different levels, how do we do that as a team? Because that, I think, is ultimately, maybe with some of the data and the digitalization, how we will be able to come together and get solutions.
Okay. We're coming towards the end of our time. So, panel members, let me invite you to just last 30 seconds. What message would you like us to take away from this? The audience have said, we've had some of these conversations before, but when we go away and try and implement, things get stuck, things get lost. So what message would you like to leave with everyone in the room so that we can try and action some of these changes? Penilla, I will start with you because politicians are put on the spot a lot more than others.
Well, can I continue with a question to the next person from the European Commission? Because sometimes I've been wondering, how come that the EU countries are not following the advice or the recommendation from the European Commission, for example, about activity plans for rare diseases? I can just mention that as a very concrete example. Sweden is one of the few countries who has not been able to put up with an activity plan so far, and it should be. I think it should have been decided 4 or maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years ago already, and you're not following it up. And mentioning that is that we are all dependent on also the decisions on the national level from the European level. So it comes from the EU sometimes and down to us in the national parliaments, and we're supposed to take guidelines for all the, in Sweden, then 21 different regions. And after that, they are also independent, so they can decide for themselves in the next level. So, but everything that is decided on national level, I think it's very important to have these guidelines, standards, quality registers, and of course specialist centers. And I think that's something we should really need some help also from the European level to continue that work, and also to have some kind of demand that you should really keep this work going in every country. That's my wish.
Thank you.
I put it over to you.
I'm fairly certain that someone in Andre's team will be contacting the Swedish Parliament to ask them about their rare disease plan in the coming months. Renaud.
Maybe my last word would be the following. I mean, it's really a revolution that we are going to face, and it has already started. Nobody knows exactly how he will be treated in 10 years or 20 years. No one knows. Neither the MD, neither the hospital manager, neither the pharmaceutical industry. But it's a wonderful opportunity to try to set up a vision and say, okay, how are we going to work together? We have spoken about data, having the data with the digitalization, big data, artificial intelligence. It's a huge opportunity. Comparing hospital, comparing MD, not looking only on the MD and the hospital, but looking from the GP to the care after the hospital, looking at the whole chain and saying, okay, what makes sense for the patient? What can we change? What can we improve? It's really one of my wish for the future.
Thank you. Bettina.
So I think I can just echo what was said before, that what we're currently having, this is not good enough. So something has to move. At the same time, it was also said in the film, I wrote it down actually, we should be able to do better. I believe that we do have the resources and the environment is changing due to big data, but I also think that there is a change in mental attitudes. If I look, for example, at younger colleagues, it's like, I mean, from our older oncologists, none of them is on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, beware. The younger generation post their cases to ask for feedback. So I think there's already a mind shift, and I have big hopes that we are already moving. It's never fast enough, and as a patient advocate, I would like to see this with a different speed. But on some level, I'm positive that we are moving towards a better future.
Geert.
I think Europe should be super ambitious to have a top healthcare with a high equity for everyone. And the means to this, we've heard, it's freeing up money by introducing next generation generics or biologicals. It's using EBM, evidence-based medicine, to reduce the waste, that 20-30% that will be the waste. Evidence-based medicine can help to reduce that waste and to reallocate resources. And there's different ways we can do that. I think Europe has shown, for example, in education, in free movement of labor, shown with GDPR. I mean, the Belgian, the Swedish, the Italian government cannot say to Europe, well, GDPR will not work in our member state. It will have to work. So member states will be put responsible for these are the means that we are going to give you, and you have to comply, because otherwise it's not going to work.
Thank you. Lee, final message.
Yeah, I think I echo everything that's been said, but it's for me it's still about patients at the center and finding solutions together in a where we know that there's an affordability, conflicting indicators issue. But I think if we work as a team, I think we've got a chance to really, as you say, get better. I think that's the key message.
Okay. Can we say a warm thank you to the panel for their conversations? Thank you. Let me now invite up to join me the final two members of the crew on the spaceship that is our evening together. I'm delighted to invite Nathalie Moll, the Director General for EFPIA, and André Ries from DG Santé, the Director for Health Systems, Medical Products and Innovation. So I'm going to start with André and put you on the hot seat, because we had lots of suggestions for what Europe should do or shouldn't do. We had a request from Sweden that the European Commission should be more stronger at follow-up. We had a call for political leadership, helping to move policies along. We're coming towards the end. We're in the end stretch of this current mandate, and people are already starting to think about the next mandate at EU level and what should be the priorities. What would you like to add?
I was still in my space shuttle. So good evening, everybody. Let me reflect a little bit about the panel before us, because the first was very strong call to the Commission to be stronger. Happy to be stronger, but I think we need to understand, the instruments we're able to use. But referring to a number of comments, I would like to start from a good example, which you discussed the collaborative research. Do we have any next step to go from collaborative research to other cooperation? And do we have any Erasmus in health? So my answer is yes, we do. And this is European Reference Network project, which started recently. I think I see this potential. I am in contact almost day with the leaders of those networks, and almost 1,000 clinicians around Europe started cooperate. Knowledge is already traveling. I hope clinicians also will move and get kind of culture shock, maybe also learning about the winter tires for the bikes, and they will. There is an answer, which I think we were able to develop, and I think we should look at this as a positive. But all started from the cross-border directive. I mean, we should also remember that thanks to patients, a number of years ago, the journey started. Then we went through the very difficult, complex legislative period. But those directives really opened door for Europe. I mean, this is really one of the milestones for our work, and now we see this after 5 years of implementation. The report will be soon presented to the Council and Parliament. Patients are moving. There is no huge movement as was speculated by many when we negotiated this directive, but this opened also very, very nicely door for the cooperation in a number of areas, like Renze already mentioned, as for HTA cooperation, for digital cooperation. So I think this is the next milestone we should see as a European one. Then data, we just last week published the communication on digital care and health and care. And there are issues which we hope we can implement. I mean, I don't think we make this communication just to make our life nicer, but we wanted to also communicate that we are committed to go this direction. So answering to the question, do we have interest to do more in the standardization or helping, digital data flow across Europe? Yes, we do. We try. We work with member states to make this possible. And then I will move to the last two or three important comments about the waste. This is also something we would like to invest more. We are working closely with OECD, also with the member states experts, with the Health System Performance Assessment Group. We try to understand better how we can help because this is, is this clinical ways, this organization ways, this is all kinds of other ways in the system. But as Thomas said, it's a very much still black box, and to understand how to open this black box and start to move, it's a next phase. The other part of discussion about coordinated care, and this is also something we very much would like to help. We discussed this, by the way, also with Friends of Europe just a few months ago. This report coming out of the Health System Performance Assessment Group and the expert group says the push on the European level. But now we are coming to the question, how this can change in the national settings. The rare disease is a great example. I thank you very much. You brought this. 2009. I was also responsible for this policy. We were able to make this policy, and we convinced member states, let's go together and go for the national rare disease programs and so on. More than 20 of member states decided to build those programs, and few others, they didn't, But of course, we continue to ask questions. We also try to share knowledge between different actors in member states to help each other to build the program. But also, we should understand now, the European Reference Network brought a kind of new dimension to this exercise. And to my understanding, a number of countries also are reflecting how to link now better this approach, the national health programs, also with the European dimension. So maybe somehow, those that are late, maybe will be better prepared to build these programs in the kind of new also evolution we are kind of see now in the European reference networks.
Okay. Thank you for that. Natalie, let me pass to you. And we heard in the earlier panel some of the day-to-day challenges of people working in healthcare, the limitations, the barriers, the constraints, and the need for everyone to move to a different form of collaboration and trying to find solutions that works. How do you see your organization fitting into that picture of collaborating and finding solutions?
First of all, I really want to thank the organizers. It was really fantastic, not only the video, but also the panel. It was really exciting to listen and the interventions from the floor. I think we have, mirroring what we heard this just before us, there are two challenges, the patient needs and the budget, and two amazing opportunities, the technological revolutions in biotech and in data. So I think we have a fantastic situation where we can't avoid but to change what we do, because what we do is not good enough, or because the things coming down the line are so revolutionary that we have to do things differently, because suddenly you're not going to have a product anymore, you're just going to have a treatment with your own cells, and you're going to have to find new ways of doing that. So I think we're in a really exciting moment where there's no choice but to change. And I hear what you're saying. We've had this conversation so many times. And what about it happens at national level? We can discuss also at European level how to do things better, and we can put things up at European level. But in actual fact, the patients are treated very often nationally, and then those things have to change there. So I would say there are two different levels. There's an EFPIA level, and then there's a National Pharmaceutical Association level. And we're working very much hand in hand with our national associations. On the EFPIA level, what we've seen is really trying to come out with this outcomes-based conversation, not just among ourselves, but when you were talking about the incentives, we have this intervention-based incentives for everybody, and we really need to move towards an outcomes-based incentive system for all the different bits that are involved with dealing with the patient. And bits is the wrong word, but you know what I mean, the chain. I also call it a chain, not a system. They're all different bits. And today, I think it's very uncoordinated the way we're all incentivized, and sometimes at cross purposes. So somewhere at the political level, we need to agree the incentives. And then we need to get smarter at communicating with one another, but also setting up concrete things. So I know that as EFPIA, a number of our members are working with IMI to set up the European Health Data Network. So that is an actual concrete system where we will try and standardize the data that sits in many different places in its little silos, not bringing it together, but making it communicable so that a researcher can say, I'd like this analysis done in these 4 countries, and they can get the information back and they can analyze it and use it. And so that is a concrete, it's under the IMI project, and it's a concrete step, right? Something that helps. And the other thing we're doing is we're working together with ICHOM, which is one of the many organizations working on standardization of data, because I think this is one of the very important things that we need to crack if we want to make progress. And with that, we're also going to do workshops in member states to really push, okay, so we need standards, we need data standards, we need the different parts where the patient data is collected to be able to communicate with each other so that we can make progress. So I think as an association, we have a responsibility for speaking with the different elements of the chain and bringing people together, and we're also doing that. It's not easy. It's a very siloed environment, but also doing very concrete steps that give value, not just conversing, because we can converse for a long time. At the national level, what we've done is we've made it a priority also for our national associations, who anyway had it, I think, as a priority, but we've already done one workshop on best practice sharing in terms of what coalitions or conversations are you having on outcomes-based healthcare, on reduction of waste, on incentives. And it was really exciting. We have 33 national associations in EFPIA, so more than the European member states. And it's really exciting to see the different relationships and conversations they have. And some work a lot with trade unions, and other ones work more with patients, another one works more with doctors. And they were learning from each other. And it was all East and West, all the European countries, plus some non-European countries that we have in there as well. And learning, so we're planning to continue that. And as we have more concrete things, to also go out to those countries with our concrete projects and make progress. Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a question, a time machine question, because you said we're at this exciting moment. We've talked in the earlier panel about the need for a revolution, not just evolution, and change is inevitable, change must come. If I could move time forward to 2025, at the end of the next 5-year mandate, do you think we'll be having the same conversation still about collaboration, or do you think we'll be having a different conversation?
I'd hope we wouldn't be having the same conversation because it's really boring. But I think, so we have 7,000 medicines in development today, so 2018, right? So by 2025, some of those things will be coming out. We've already moved from situations where you have an incurable disease like Hep C to cures, or HIV from death sentence to a manageable disease. And we're all working for vaccines against HIV, or incredible new changes. So I think that the technology will force us to change the conversation, because the patients will also expect to have access to those things, and wherever they are and whoever they are. So the famous challenge, right? And the other challenge is the money, even though the economic crisis is not in the same place, where, I think we're much wiser for it. And so I would not think so. At European level, I don't know, because I don't have a crystal ball and I have no idea what the next commission looks like. I hope that health remains an EU priority, and it was good to see the budget today, the EU budget discussion, and health in all policies was recognized. That's really encouraging, and the research budget was also confirmed, at least in the proposal of the Commission. For us, I think as a healthcare community, it's important that health remains a high priority for the European level, because it maintains then the conversation with the national level, and it allows that interconnectivity of which we're worried that we will lose as we look after the evolution or the revolution, whatever you want to call it.
Andre, final words. What are we talking about?
The same question to Natalie. I think for me the biggest change will be still in society and also in the professional life, because when you said about the artificial intelligence, when I speak to people working in this field, and they are telling me that in next, year, 2, 3, there will be the shift from the system that patients will come and tell to the doctor, according to the algorithm, whatever machine, contact doctor, artificial doctor, I am going to have a stroke in next 24 hours. And can we imagine this? I don't know, but it's a lot of hopes, created by these new technologies. But at the same time, we have still big barriers of the health professionals and society, because I think society is not moving so quickly like technology, and we should not forget also those they cannot catch up, so quickly as the younger generation of our children. So my big kind of question is about how much society really would like to be in the debate, because it's more and more patients are organized. Patients, if I remember my time as a vice minister, and which patients were coming very rarely, almost not to the office of minister, but now there's rather a question how many groups are organized and what you should see them on national or local level. So the participation of citizens is much stronger and will be stronger. The connectivity between the health professionals will be stronger. The new elements of the training should be taken. I am so happy that some countries already are telling that they will review the way of teaching medicine because of changes in the society and also in technologies, in digitalization and so on. So those challenges will move us, through the new dimension. So maybe the debate will be not more boring. I spoke that not computer will exchange, information, and we'll be just watching them happy what they are doing for us. There's still room for human being, and I hope the next commission and new challenges will be the human challenges, not the machine challenges.
Okay. Can we say a thank you to our final members of the crew?